Nathan Walker, a devoted police officer in the close-knit town of Greendale, made a life-altering decision 20 years ago when he adopted 6 black girls. Known for his unwavering dedication, Nathan was a man who lived by duty, but beneath the badge was a heart that ached with loneliness after the passing of his beloved wife. The house they once dreamed would be filled with children was now a place of silent grief. Then, one day, a call came in that would change everything. 6 young black girls, abandoned, frightened, and unwanted. No one could have foreseen the incredible act of kindness that followed. In an extraordinary moment of love and courage, Nathan chose to adopt these 6 girls. He poured his heart and soul into raising them, despite the challenges. Now, 2 decades later, his health is failing, but what these girls did to repay his boundless love and sacrifice is beyond belief. Stay tuned to discover this powerful story of love, resilience, and gratitude. And if this story moves you, don't forget to subscribe for more inspiring content. The small town of Greendale is a quiet place where everyone knows each other, and rarely does anything extraordinary happen. But one fateful afternoon, Nathan Walker's life took an unexpected turn. He was on patrol when a distressing call came in, 6 black girls, abandoned and alone. Nathan felt a chill down his spine as he turned onto Willow Avenue and saw the rundown house looming ahead. His headlights cut through the gathering dusk, but inside the house, the darkness felt heavier. Soft cries greeted him as he cautiously approached the front door. Stepping inside, Nathan found 6 terrified girls, huddled together on the floor of a dimly lit, barren room. The oldest girl, no more than 12, held the youngest, a baby who couldn't have been older than 2. Their wide, fearful eyes locked onto Nathan as he knelt down. "It's okay, you're safe now," Nathan said, his voice gentle but steady. He knew his presence as a police officer could be intimidating, so he softened his tone, crouching to their level. "Can you tell me what happened?" The oldest, Keisha, tried to speak through her sobs. "Our parents, they didn't come back. We've been waiting for days." The girls, exhausted and confused, had been left with no one, and the overwhelming reality of their abandonment hung in the air. Nathan's heart broke for them. These weren't just 6 faces in a system. They were scared children who had lost everything. After calling Child Protective Services, he listened as social workers arrived, assessing the situation. Their conversation left a knot in his stomach. "It'll be hard to keep all 6 together," one worker said. "Older ones may struggle to find homes. They'll probably be split up." Nathan couldn't bear it. These sisters had already lost their parents. The thought of them losing each other was more than he could stand. As he stood there, something unexpected welled up inside him, an overwhelming sense of responsibility. Without thinking, he stepped forward. "What if I take them?" The room went silent. The social worker, Ms. Karen, looked at Nathan in disbelief. "Officer Walker, adopting 1 child is a significant commitment, let alone 6. And there are cultural factors. These girls are black, and raising them will come with challenges you may not fully understand." Nathan nodded, acknowledging the truth of her words, but he was resolute. "I understand that. But I can't let these girls be torn apart. I'll learn what I need to. What matters is keeping them together. They've lost enough." Keisha, hearing the conversation, approached Nathan. Her small, trembling hand reached for his. "You mean we won't have to go somewhere else? We'll stay together?" Nathan knelt down, looking her in the eyes. "I'm going to do everything I can to make sure you and your sisters stay together." The process of adoption wasn't easy. Over the next few weeks, Nathan faced a whirlwind of meetings with social workers, lawyers, and adoption agencies. His colleagues, friends, and even the townspeople were shocked by his decision. Some questioned his motives, while others worried about how a single white man could raise 6 black girls in a society where racial differences were often a source of tension. Even Nathan, at times, felt overwhelmed by the enormity of his choice. Could he truly give these girls what they needed? Could he navigate the complexities of race, culture, and identity that would inevitably arise? But with each hurdle, Nathan's resolve grew stronger. He wasn't just adopting children, he was giving them a chance at family, at love, and at stability. He studied their culture, reached out to local black leaders, and took parenting classes. Nathan knew he had to be more than just their provider. He had to be their advocate, their protector, and most importantly, their father. After months of preparation, the day finally came. Papers were signed, and Keisha, Imani, Tasha, Maya, Layla, and baby Jasmine officially became part of Nathan Walker's life. As they left the courthouse, Keisha, now with a look of hope in her eyes, reached out and took Nathan's hand. "Are we really a family now?" she asked softly. Nathan squeezed her hand, his heart swelling with emotion. "Yes, we are. And I promise you'll always have a home with me." For the first time in what felt like forever, the girls smiled. The road ahead would be full of challenges, but in that moment, they all felt something they hadn't in a long time: security. And for Nathan, who had spent so many years grieving the family he thought he would never have, his heart finally felt full again. As the weeks turned into months, the girls gradually began to settle into their new lives with Nathan. The small house on Riverdale Street, once quiet and lifeless, now echoed with laughter, chatter, and the occasional argument over toys or what show to watch. Nathan, who had lived alone for so long, found himself navigating a whirlwind of new experiences, preparing 6 different lunches, mediating sibling squabbles, and figuring out the complexities of washing and styling the girls' hair. It was far from easy. In the beginning, the girls were hesitant, unsure if this new life would last. Nathan could see the doubt in their eyes, especially in Keisha's, the oldest. She had taken on a protective role for her sisters, and though she appreciated Nathan's efforts, she had been let down too many times before to trust fully. But slowly, Nathan's unwavering presence began to break through her defenses. Every evening, he would sit with her, helping with homework or just listening to her talk about her day. It was in these quiet moments that Keisha began to see that Nathan wasn't going anywhere. He was there for the long haul. One night, as Nathan tucked Jasmine, the youngest, into bed, she looked up at him with wide, sleepy eyes. "Daddy, will you be here tomorrow?" she asked, her small hand clutching his. Nathan's heart ached at the question. It was a simple inquiry, but it carried the weight of years of uncertainty for Jasmine. "Yes, sweetheart," he said, smoothing her hair gently. "I'll be here tomorrow. And every tomorrow after that." This promise wasn't just for Jasmine. It was for all the girls. They had been through more heartache and instability in their short lives than most people could imagine. But Nathan was determined to give them the security they desperately needed. With each passing day, the girls grew more comfortable in their new home. They started to open up, showing Nathan their personalities and quirks. Imani loved to draw, often covering the kitchen table with sketches of animals and flowers. Tasha was the athlete of the group, always kicking a soccer ball around in the backyard. Maya was quiet, often found reading in the corner of the living room, while Layla, with her bold energy, loved to sing at the top of her lungs, turning the house into her own personal stage. Nathan found himself marveling at how quickly his life had transformed. The emptiness that had haunted him after his wife's passing was being replaced by the chaotic, beautiful mess of raising 6 daughters. There were tough days, of course, days when the girls fought, when they struggled with their loss, when Nathan felt unsure of how to help them. But in those moments, he reminded himself of the promise he had made, to give them a home, to keep them together, no matter what. And slowly, bit by bit, that promise was coming true. They were becoming a family, perhaps not in the traditional sense, but a family built on love, resilience, and the bond of shared struggle. Nathan had saved the girls from a broken system, but in many ways, they had saved him too. The first few weeks after Nathan brought the 6 girls home were a whirlwind of adjustment, uncertainty, and exhaustion. For Nathan, it was like diving headfirst into an entirely new life. Gone were the quiet evenings alone. His house on Riverdale Street was now filled with the constant hum of voices, laughter, and sometimes tears. From the very beginning, Nathan realized just how much his life had changed. He had gone from preparing simple meals for one to trying to figure out what 6 different little girls liked to eat. There were daily battles over shoes, clothes, and brushing teeth. And then there was the bedtime routine. Getting 6 children to sleep was nothing short of a Herculean task. Every night seemed to be filled with requests for water, complaints about nightmares, and the occasional argument about whose turn it was to sleep next to their new father. But it wasn't just the logistics that were difficult. Emotionally, it was overwhelming. These girls, though now in a safe and loving home, carried with them the weight of their past. They were hesitant to fully trust Nathan, afraid that this new life might be taken from them, just like everything else had been. Keisha, the eldest, was particularly guarded. At 12, she had taken on the role of protector for her younger sisters. Nathan could see the responsibility she carried on her small shoulders, and while she was polite, she kept her distance. She was always watching him, waiting for the moment he might slip, ready to step in if her sisters needed her. Nathan knew it would take time for her to trust him, but each time he saw that guarded look in her eyes, it stung. The youngest, Jasmine, on the other hand, was more open with her emotions. Just a toddler, she often reached out for Nathan, seeking comfort and reassurance. But even Jasmine had moments where she would wake up in the middle of the night crying for her mother. Nathan's heart broke each time he heard her little voice whisper, "Mommy?" into the darkness. And then there was the challenge of learning how to care for them properly. Nathan, who had no experience raising children, was overwhelmed by the simple but significant details of everyday life. From learning how to care for their hair, something that proved much more difficult than he ever anticipated, to understanding their individual emotional needs, it was a steep learning curve. He spent hours online, watching tutorials, reading articles, and even reaching out to Black parents in the community to get advice. "This is harder than anything I've ever done," he muttered to himself one evening, trying, unsuccessfully, to braid Jasmine's hair as the girls giggled around him. Despite the difficulties, Nathan was unwavering in his commitment. Each night, as he tucked them into bed and kissed their foreheads, he reminded himself of the promise he made, to give them a home, a family, and a future. It wasn't easy, but it was worth it. In those early days, what kept Nathan going was the small moments of progress. Like the first time Keisha smiled at one of his corny jokes. Or when Imani, the second oldest, started showing him her drawings without being prompted. Each tiny step forward felt like a mountain had been climbed, a small victory in the bigger battle of building trust. As the days turned into weeks, Nathan began to notice the subtle but undeniable shift in how people in Greendale treated him. In a town where everyone once greeted him warmly, there was now an uneasy tension in the air. Some neighbors who used to stop by for casual chats now kept their distance, offering only brief, polite nods when they passed by. At the grocery store, Nathan would catch sideways glances as he herded the girls down the aisles. He could feel the silent judgment from those around him, their eyes lingering on him, this white man with 6 black daughters. The whispers were unavoidable. "Why would he adopt them?" one woman muttered under her breath. Even Mrs. Harrison, who had once been so friendly, now looked at him with suspicion. "How's it going with all those girls?" she asked one afternoon, her tone dripping with doubt. Nathan forced a smile and responded, "We're managing just fine." But the hurt in his chest lingered. One Sunday morning, Nathan found himself nervously adjusting his tie as he prepared to take the girls to Mt. Zion Baptist Church, the same church their parents had attended. It was the first time Nathan would set foot in the predominantly black church, and the weight of it pressed on him. He didn't know what to expect. He only knew that it was important for the girls to stay connected to their culture, their roots. As they walked through the church doors, all eyes turned to them. The girls, sensing Nathan's unease, huddled close to him, and he placed a reassuring hand on Keisha's shoulder. The warm sound of gospel music filled the air, but Nathan couldn't shake the feeling of being out of place. The service was unlike anything Nathan had experienced, vibrant, emotional, and full of life. The choir sang with a passion that brought the congregation to its feet, and the preacher's words resonated deeply. Despite his initial discomfort, Nathan began to relax. He saw how the girls swayed to the music, smiling, their faces finally showing a sense of belonging that had been missing. After the service, an older woman approached them. Her hair was silver, and her eyes were kind but sharp. "You must be Nathan," she said, her voice strong but welcoming. "I'm Sister May. I know these girls well. I was close to their parents." Nathan nodded, unsure of what to say. Sister May studied him for a moment, then smiled. "I see the love in your eyes for them. Raising these girls is no small task, but you're doing right by them." Nathan felt a wave of relief wash over him. "Thank you," he said softly. "I'm trying my best." From that day on, the church community became a support system for Nathan and the girls. They embraced him despite the differences, offering advice, guidance, and most importantly, acceptance. Nathan realized that this church wasn't just a place of worship. It was a place where the girls could connect with their heritage, and where he could learn how to support them in ways he never thought he would need to. As time passed, Nathan began to see each of the girls' unique personalities blossom, each one revealing the special traits that made them who they were. It wasn't long before his once quiet home was filled with the sound of 6 distinct voices, each with their own dreams, quirks, and ways of navigating the world. Keisha, the eldest at 12, was the natural leader. Responsible and fiercely protective of her younger sisters, she often acted more like a mother than a child. She was mature beyond her years, and Nathan could see the burden she carried. It was hard for her to let go, to trust that Nathan was capable of caring for them, but slowly, she began to ease into her role as the oldest sister instead of a guardian. Keisha had a sharp mind, always excelling in school, and she loved organizing things, whether it was the household chores or the books on the shelf. Imani, at 10, was the artist of the family. Quiet and observant, she was often found with a sketchpad in hand drawing animals, landscapes, and sometimes her sisters. Imani didn't speak as much as the others, but her art spoke volumes. Nathan noticed that her drawings captured the family's journey, their moments of joy, sadness, and growth. It was her way of processing the world around her. She had a soft-spoken nature but a heart full of depth, and Nathan found himself deeply moved by the quiet wisdom in her artwork. Tasha, 9, was the athlete. Full of energy, always running around the yard with a soccer ball, or challenging Nathan to races, she was a natural competitor. Tasha had a fiery spirit, and was never afraid to speak her mind, but she also had a deep sense of fairness. Nathan admired her tenacity, though it meant managing her occasional outbursts when things didn't go her way. Still, he saw in Tasha the potential for greatness, especially as she learned to channel her energy into sports and school. Maya, 8, was the dreamer. With her nose always buried in a book, Maya could often be found in her own world, exploring distant lands through the pages of her favorite stories. She was the quietest of the girls, preferring to spend her time reading rather than in the noisy chaos of the house. Nathan loved watching her read, her face lighting up as she uncovered new adventures. Maya had a way of seeing the world differently, and though she was shy, Nathan knew there was a deep, creative mind behind those bookish glasses. Layla, 6, was the performer. Bold, loud, and always the center of attention, she loved to sing and dance, turning the living room into her stage whenever she could. Her laughter was infectious, and she had a way of making even the gloomiest days feel brighter. Layla was the first to make friends at school and always tried to lift her sister's spirits when they were feeling down. Nathan couldn't help but smile every time Layla burst into song, even when her impromptu performances interrupted dinner. And finally, there was Jasmine, the baby of the family, just 3 years old. With her big, innocent eyes and her gentle nature, she quickly became Nathan's shadow, following him around the house wherever he went. Jasmine was still learning to navigate a world without her biological parents, but her resilience shone through. She had an uncanny ability to bring everyone together, her presence softening even the toughest moments. Whether it was a smile or a giggle, Jasmine had a way of reminding Nathan why he had taken this journey, because these girls deserved a chance at happiness, and he was determined to give it to them. Despite their differences, what united these 6 girls was their love for one another and their growing bond with Nathan. Together, they formed a tapestry of personalities, each thread adding to the richness of their new family life. As the girls grew older, the challenges they faced became more complex, especially when it came to race and identity. For Tessa, now in her teenage years, the questions surrounding her place in the world grew louder every day. Living in a predominantly white town as a young black girl, Tessa often felt like she didn't belong. The whispers at school, the stares in public, and the subtle but constant reminders that she was different gnawed at her. She could sense it in the way people looked at her, as if they were questioning her connection to Nathan. She heard it in the comments that seemed harmless on the surface but were filled with underlying prejudice. "You're so pretty for a black girl." Or, "Do you feel weird being in a white family?" Every one of these remarks planted seeds of doubt inside her, making her question her identity, her family, and her place in the world. Tessa often found herself caught between two worlds. At home, Nathan's love was undeniable, and her sisters were her safe haven. But outside the walls of their house, it felt like no one understood her, not even Nathan. He had tried his best to raise them, to give them everything they needed, but there were things he couldn't fully grasp, like the experience of being black in a world that still judged people by the color of their skin. The weight of these emotions grew heavier each day. Tessa found herself pulling away from her family, especially from Nathan. She struggled with the knowledge that, no matter how much he loved her, he couldn't protect her from the world's view of her race. It wasn't his fault, but it left her feeling isolated, like she was fighting a battle alone. At school, Tessa had few friends who truly understood what she was going through. Most of the students were white, and even those who tried to be kind often didn't realize how their words could cut. She started to feel like she was living two lives, one at home, where she tried to be the strong, loving sister, and one at school, where she constantly had to defend her identity and justify her place in her own family. These internal struggles began to weigh on her heavily, and no matter how hard she tried, the anger and confusion kept building. She wanted to talk to someone, but who could understand? Who could possibly know what it felt like to be both loved and yet feel so different in the family you cherished? The tension between Tessa and her feelings about race had been building for weeks, and it was only a matter of time before it came to a head. One evening, during a seemingly ordinary dinner, that tension finally boiled over. It started innocently enough. Lila, the ever-optimistic and energetic 6-year-old, was talking excitedly about a new friend she had made at school. She was animated, laughing and sharing every detail about her day. But then she said something that hit Tessa hard. "My friend said it's funny that we all have different skin colors in one family. But I told her it's because love makes a family, not how you look." Lila beamed, proud of her response. But Tessa didn't smile. Instead, she froze, the words echoing in her mind. Funny. That's what people thought. That their family was some kind of joke because of the way they looked? She had heard similar things at school, and every time, it hurt. But coming from her own sister, it stung even deeper. "Do you think it's funny, Lila?" Tessa asked, her voice suddenly sharp, her eyes narrowing as she looked across the table. Lila, taken aback by the sudden change in tone, blinked in confusion. "No, I just thought." "You thought what?" Tessa cut in, her anger bubbling to the surface. "That it's cute? That it's just a funny little thing we can all laugh about? You don't get it, Lila. You don't get what people say about us behind our backs. They don't think we're normal. They don't think we belong." The room grew tense as the other girls fell silent, sensing the seriousness of the moment. Nathan put his fork down, watching the exchange carefully, unsure of how to intervene. Lila, now on the verge of tears, stammered. "I didn't mean anything bad, Tessa. I just wanted to." "Exactly," Tessa snapped, standing up from the table. "You didn't mean anything because you don't know what it feels like. You're still young, you don't get how people look at us. They look at me like I don't belong here. Like we don't belong anywhere." Lila's face crumpled, her lower lip trembling. "I didn't know." "Of course you didn't," Tessa said bitterly. "Because you're too busy being everyone's favorite. Everyone loves the cute little girl who sings and dances. No one cares about how I feel." Nathan finally stepped in. "Tessa, that's enough. but the damage had been done. Tessa stormed out of the dining room, leaving Lila in tears and the rest of the family in stunned silence. In her room, Tessa slammed the door shut, her heart pounding with a mix of anger, frustration, and guilt. She knew she had hurt Lila, but in that moment, the weight of all her pent-up emotions had come crashing down. It wasn't just about Lila's comment, it was about everything. The stares, the whispers, the feeling of never quite fitting in. Meanwhile, Nathan sat with Lila, trying to comfort her. "She didn't mean it, sweetie," he said gently, pulling her into a hug. But deep down, Nathan knew Tessa's outburst wasn't just a momentary flare of temper. It was the result of a much deeper struggle, one that he was still trying to understand. Tessa's outburst at dinner was just the beginning of what would become the most difficult night of Nathan's life as a father. After storming out of the dining room, Tessa retreated to her room, her mind racing with anger, hurt, and confusion. She couldn't shake the feeling of being an outsider, even within her own family. The weight of feeling misunderstood, of feeling like she didn't belong, had grown too heavy. She needed to escape. As the house quieted down and everyone went to bed, Tessa made up her mind. She grabbed a backpack, stuffing it with clothes, her phone, and a few personal items. Her heart pounded in her chest as she quietly opened her bedroom window, the cool night air rushing in. Climbing out, she landed softly on the grass, her legs trembling with both fear and adrenaline. She didn't know where she was going, but she knew she couldn't stay. Tessa started walking, her footsteps quick and determined. The streets of Greendale were dark and empty, but she didn't care. All she could think about was getting as far away as possible, from the whispers, from the stares, and from the feeling that no one truly understood her. As she walked, Tessa's mind wandered to the things that had been building inside her for so long. She thought about the kids at school who asked questions that were disguised as curiosity but felt like judgment. "So, how come your dad is white?" they'd ask, or worse, "Do you even know your real family?" Those words had pierced her, making her feel like an outsider even more. And at home, as much as Nathan loved her, he couldn't understand what it was like to be a black girl in a white family. He tried, he really did, but there were things he couldn't fix. Tessa felt trapped between two worlds, and now, that frustration was boiling over. She needed space to think, to figure out who she was outside of everyone else's expectations. Hours passed, and Tessa found herself sitting at the bus station, staring at the list of destinations. She hadn't brought much money, just the allowance she'd saved up over the months. It was barely enough for a bus ticket, but she didn't care where she went. She just needed to leave. She sat on the cold bench, the sound of buses coming and going filling the otherwise quiet night. But as the minutes ticked by, her resolve started to weaken. Alone, in the dimly lit bus terminal, Tessa's anger slowly gave way to something else, fear. What if she couldn't make it on her own? What if she ended up lost or hurt? Doubts began to creep in, but she pushed them aside, telling herself that this was the only way she could find some peace. Meanwhile, back at home, Nathan had just discovered her empty room. Panic set in immediately. He called out her name, his voice echoing through the house, but there was no answer. The other girls woke up, scared and confused, as Nathan searched every corner of the house, praying that she hadn't really left. After checking outside and finding no trace of her, Nathan's heart sank. He grabbed his phone and dialed Officer Michael, his old friend and colleague. "Mike, it's Nathan. Tessa's gone. I don't know where she went, but I need your help to find her." The next hours were a blur of fear and frantic searching. Nathan and Officer Michael drove through the streets of Greendale, checking parks, alleyways, and any place Tessa might have gone to clear her head. With every minute that passed, Nathan's worry deepened. What if she got hurt? What if she ran into trouble? He couldn't bear the thought. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, Officer Michael's radio crackled to life. "We've got a sighting of a girl matching Tessa's description at the bus station." Nathan's heart leapt. He sped toward the station, his mind racing with relief and fear. What would he say to her? How would he get her to come home? As much as he wanted to be angry, All he could feel was a desperate need to know she was safe. When they arrived, Nathan spotted Tessa sitting alone on the bench, her backpack slung over her shoulder, her face a mix of exhaustion and uncertainty. She looked up as he approached, her eyes filled with a mixture of defiance and sadness. Nathan approached Tessa slowly, his heart racing. She sat there, eyes downcast, staring at the ground, the weight of her decision hanging in the air between them. His first instinct was to scold her for leaving, for scaring him and the family, but as he stood there, looking at her tired face and slumped shoulders, the anger melted away. All he felt was relief that she was safe. "Tessa," Nathan said softly, sitting down beside her on the cold bench. She didn't look at him, but he could see the tension in her shoulders, her fingers clutching the straps of her backpack as if she still wasn't sure if she'd stay or go. Nathan took a deep breath, trying to find the right words. "I'm not here to yell at you. I need to know why." His voice cracked slightly, and for the first time, Tessa glanced up at him, her eyes filled with frustration and pain. "Why?" she echoed, her voice laced with bitterness. "Because I don't belong anywhere." She looked away again, as if the words themselves were too heavy to keep inside. Nathan's heart broke hearing her say that. He had tried so hard to make their home a place where the girls felt loved, where they felt like they belonged. But he realized now that he had underestimated just how deeply Tessa had been struggling. "You don't have to run away from me to understand that something's wrong, Tess. I know it's been hard for you. But leaving? You don't know." Tessa cut him off, her voice rising, the dam of emotions breaking. "You don't know what it's like to be black and feel like you don't fit in. You don't know what it's like to walk around and have people question if you're even part of your own family." Tears welled up in her eyes, and she quickly wiped them away, trying to hold on to her anger. Nathan stayed silent for a moment, letting her words sink in. She was right. He didn't know. He would never know what it felt like to be her, to face the world in her skin. But that didn't mean he wasn't willing to learn. "You're right," he said quietly. "I don't know what that's like. But I know what it's like to feel lost. To feel like you don't belong." Tessa turned toward him then, her expression softening just a little. Nathan took that as a sign to continue. "I've felt lost ever since your mom passed. I spent years trying to fill that emptiness. And then, when I found you girls, I thought maybe, just maybe, I could give you the family I never had. But I realize now, it's not just about giving you a home. It's about understanding who you are, and I haven't done enough of that." For the first time that night, Tessa's defensive posture began to relax. I don't know who I am anymore," she admitted, her voice breaking. "I'm black, but I'm being raised by a white father. I don't fit in with the white kids, and I don't fit in with the black kids either. Everyone's always asking me to explain why our family looks like this, and I don't have an answer." Nathan reached out, placing a hand on her shoulder. "You don't owe anyone an explanation, Tess. You don't have to fit into anyone's box. Our family might look different, but that doesn't change the love we have for each other. You're my daughter, and that's what matters. I just want you to know that you can talk to me. You don't have to carry this all by yourself." Tessa finally looked him in the eyes, her tears spilling over. "I don't know how to explain what I feel sometimes. I just feel different." Nathan nodded, his own emotions welling up. "I may not have all the answers, but I promise I'll do everything I can to help you figure it out. You don't have to go through this alone." He squeezed her shoulder gently. "Let's go home, okay?" Tessa wiped her eyes, nodding slowly. "Okay." For the first time in weeks, she felt like she could breathe again. Maybe Nathan couldn't understand everything she was going through, but he was willing to listen, and that was a start. As they stood up, ready to leave the station, Nathan wrapped his arm around her, pulling her close. He knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy, but as long as they faced it together, there was hope. And that, more than anything, was what they both needed. The days following Tessa's return were a turning point for Nathan. Their emotional conversation at the police station had opened his eyes in ways he hadn't anticipated. For the first time, he truly understood that his love, while genuine and deep, wasn't enough on its own. He needed to understand his daughter's experiences, especially when it came to navigating a world that viewed them differently because of their race. Nathan had always prided himself on being a good father, but now he realized that being a good father to Tessa, and all the girls, meant educating himself. It meant acknowledging that there were aspects of their lives he couldn't relate to, but that didn't mean he couldn't support them. The more he thought about their conversation, the more determined he became to be the father they needed him to be, not just the father he thought he should be. Nathan began with the basics. He reached out to the Black community in Greendale, particularly to members of Mt. Zion Baptist Church, where they had been welcomed with open arms. He had always appreciated their warmth, but now he leaned on them for guidance. Sister May, who had offered him advice before, became a regular voice in his life. Nathan started attending church more often, not just for the spiritual guidance, but to immerse himself in the culture that was so integral to his daughter's identities. One Sunday after service, he approached Sister May with a humble request. "I need to learn more," he said, his voice steady but vulnerable. "I've tried my best, but I know it's not enough. I want to understand what my girls are going through. Can you help me?" Sister May smiled, a mixture of sympathy and approval in her expression. "You're already doing what so many parents never do, Nathan. You're asking for help. That's the first step. You're not expected to know everything, but you are expected to listen, to learn, and to be there for your girls as they figure out who they are." She paused, placing a gentle hand on his arm. "Come to our community gatherings, get to know the families here. You'll see that love and identity can coexist, even when they look different." Nathan took her advice to heart. He started attending community events, potlucks, and discussion groups. At first, he felt like an outsider, one of the few white faces in the room, but slowly, he began to feel more comfortable. He listened to stories of struggle and triumph from Black parents who had navigated similar challenges, and each story gave him a deeper understanding of what Tessa and the other girls might face as they grew older. At home, Nathan made a conscious effort to talk with the girls about race, identity, and the complexities of their experiences. No longer would he avoid these tough conversations, hoping love alone would smooth over any bumps. He wanted to understand their world from their perspective. One evening, he sat down with Tessa in the living room, a book in his hand. "I've been reading this," he said, showing her the cover. It was a memoir written by a Black woman who had grown up in a white family. "I thought it might help me see things a little more clearly." Tessa looked at him, surprised but touched by the gesture. "You're reading that for me?" Nathan nodded. "For you, for all of you. I know I can never fully understand what it's like, but that doesn't mean I can't try to get closer." Tessa smiled softly, a small but significant step toward healing the rift between them. "Thanks, Dad. It means a lot." But Nathan's journey didn't stop at reading books and attending community events. He started actively seeking out ways to make the girls feel more connected to their heritage. He filled their home with books by Black authors, and he began sharing Black history with the younger girls during bedtime stories, finding age-appropriate ways to introduce them to figures like Harriet Tubman and Langston Hughes. He watched documentaries with the older girls, and together they discussed the civil rights movement, systemic racism, and the importance of embracing their identity. Through these conversations, Nathan noticed a change in the girls, especially Tessa. She seemed lighter, less burdened by the weight of trying to navigate her identity alone. Nathan's efforts showed her that he wasn't just there to love her, he was there to walk this journey of self-discovery alongside her, no matter how unfamiliar the territory was for him. Nathan also realized the importance of hair care for his daughters, something he had initially struggled with. He had spent hours watching YouTube tutorials when the girls first came into his life, but now he took a different approach. He reached out to a Black-owned salon in town, asking if they could teach him how to properly care for his daughter's hair. "I want to do it right," he explained to the stylist, a woman named Monique, who smiled at his dedication. Monique invited Nathan and the girls to the salon for a special family hair day, where she not only styled their hair but walked Nathan through the basics of maintaining their curls. It was a small act, but to the girls, it meant everything. Hair, after all, wasn't just about appearance. It was about connection, culture, and self-expression. As the months went on, the changes in Nathan's approach became evident. The girls were more open, more confident in discussing their feelings about race, family, and identity. The family dynamic shifted, not because the love was new, but because the understanding had deepened. One night, after a particularly long day of work, Nathan sat down with Tessa on the porch, watching the sunset. She leaned her head on his shoulder and sighed. "I'm glad you're trying, Dad. It makes everything a little easier." Nathan kissed the top of her head, feeling the weight of her words. "I'm glad too, Tess. We're in this together." The years had flown by since Nathan first welcomed the girls into his life, and as they grew into strong young women, they never forgot the sacrifices he made for them. Now, with Tessa at 22 and the youngest, Jasmine, about to turn 14, the sisters decided it was time to do something special for the man who had changed their lives. He had given them a home, a family, and the love they desperately needed. Now it was their turn to give something back. It started with a quiet conversation between Keisha and Imani. "Dad's been through so much for us," Keisha said one evening as they sat in the living room, reflecting on their journey. "We should do something to show him how much we appreciate everything." Imani nodded thoughtfully. "We owe him more than we could ever say, but maybe there's a way we can show him, instead." The idea took root quickly. The sisters began meeting secretly, late at night after Nathan had gone to bed, huddling together in Keisha's room to plan a surprise that would show their gratitude in a way that words never could. Each of them had grown into their own, with different strengths and talents, and they were determined to use those skills to create a day that Nathan would never forget. Imani took charge of the artistic side of things. Her idea was to create a video montage, weaving together memories of their lives with Nathan, everything from those early days when he struggled with braiding their hair to the big milestones like graduations and birthdays. "I want it to be personal, something that shows just how much he's been there for us," Imani explained as she sketched out ideas for the video. Meanwhile, Keisha, ever the organizer, coordinated the logistics. She reached out to the local community center, where so many of their important family moments had taken place, and secured it as the venue for the surprise event. She also contacted Nathan's old police colleagues, friends from Mt. Zion Baptist Church, and even the girls' teachers and mentors over the years. "We want everyone who's been a part of our journey to be there," Keisha said, sending out invitations with a sense of excitement bubbling in her chest. Tessa, who had once been so conflicted about her place in the family, was now leading the charge in planning the speech they would all give. She spent hours drafting and revising, wanting to find the perfect words to express their collective gratitude. "This isn't just about saying thank you," Tessa explained to her sisters. "It's about letting him know that he changed our lives, that we wouldn't be who we are without him." Her voice carried a weight of sincerity, and her sisters knew how important this moment was for her. Even the younger girls, Layla and Jasmine, had their roles. Layla, the performer, was in charge of planning a small musical performance, and Jasmine, who adored her father deeply, was tasked with keeping Nathan distracted in the days leading up to the event so he wouldn't suspect a thing. As the date of the surprise approached, the excitement in the house grew. There were whispered conversations, last-minute rehearsals, and quiet giggles as the girls scrambled to make everything perfect. The bond between the sisters had grown over the years, strengthened by the love and stability Nathan had given them, and this project brought them closer than ever. They wanted this to be more than just a simple party. They wanted it to be a celebration of family, of resilience, and of the unshakable love that had carried them through every challenge. They kept Nathan in the dark, telling him only that they were planning a small family dinner to celebrate his birthday. Nathan, always humble and never expecting much in return, didn't suspect a thing. He was simply happy to spend time with his girls. Little did he know, the night would be far more than a simple dinner. It would be a night that showed just how deeply his daughters cherished him, A night where the love he had given so freely would come back to him in the most unexpected and beautiful way. The evening of the event finally arrived. Nathan, still unaware of what was in store for him, had been enjoying a relaxing day with Jasmine, who kept him entertained with board games and small errands to keep him out of the house. As the sun began to set, Jasmine, following the plan, casually suggested they head over to the community center for what Nathan thought was a simple family dinner. "It's just a little celebration," Jasmine said, her eyes twinkling with a secret she could barely contain. "Everyone's going to be there." Nathan smiled, appreciating the effort but unaware of the true magnitude of what the girls had prepared. He never expected much for his birthday, just the presence of his daughters was enough for him. But as they approached the doors of the community center, something seemed different. There were more cars in the parking lot than usual, and the faint sound of laughter and chatter could be heard from inside. As Nathan opened the door, he was met with the most heartwarming sight. The room was filled with family, friends, and community members, all of whom had gathered to celebrate him. The space was beautifully decorated with photos from over the years, snapshots of Nathan and the girls during birthdays, school events, and quiet moments at home. Bright, colorful banners hung from the ceiling, reading, "Thank you, Nathan Walker," and "A Father's Love." The moment Nathan stepped into the room, the crowd erupted in applause. Stunned, he stood frozen at the entrance, his eyes wide as he took in the sight of so many familiar faces. The girls were there, of course, smiling brightly, their eyes gleaming with excitement and love. But what struck Nathan the most was seeing the people from all walks of his life, the officers he had worked with on the force, the neighbors who had watched the girls grow up, and the members of Mt. Zion Baptist Church who had embraced them as family. Nathan's heart swelled with emotion, and he turned to Jasmine with a look of disbelief. "You did all this?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Jasmine smiled and nodded. "Not just me, Dad. We all did. This is for you." As the room quieted, Keisha stepped forward, a microphone in hand, and addressed the crowd. "Thank you all for being here tonight. We've gathered to honor a man who has given so much, not just to us, but to everyone he's touched." Her voice was filled with emotion, and she glanced over at Nathan, who was still standing at the front of the room, clearly overwhelmed. "Dad," Keisha continued, her voice trembling slightly as she spoke, "you've always said that family isn't about blood, it's about love. And you've shown us that every single day. We wanted to find a way to show you just how much you mean to us, and to everyone here, so we've put together something special." With that, the lights in the room dimmed, and the video screen came to life. The montage Imani had carefully crafted began to play. It opened with early footage, grainy home videos of the girls when they first came into Nathan's life. There were moments of laughter and joy, but also the quiet, tender times when Nathan was there for them during the toughest moments. Clips showed him braiding hair, helping with homework, and cheering them on at soccer games and school plays. The crowd watched as the girls' voices narrated the video. "You gave us a home when we had nowhere else to go," Tessa's voice said over a clip of Nathan carrying a sleepy Jasmine to bed. "You became our father when we needed one most." The video transitioned to show more recent moments, graduations, birthday celebrations, and quiet evenings at home. Each clip was a testament to Nathan's unwavering love and commitment. There were interviews with his colleagues, friends, and members of the church, all speaking of his kindness, integrity, and dedication. One of his old police partners appeared on the screen. "Nathan Walker is the kind of man who always puts others first. He didn't just protect this town, he protected his family, and he built something beautiful." The camera then cut to Sister May from Mt. Zion Baptist Church, who smiled warmly as she said, "Nathan walked into our church, a white man with 6 black daughters, and never once did he waver in his love for them. He didn't care about the color of their skin, he cared about their hearts." Tears began to well up in Nathan's eyes as the video reached its conclusion. The final clip showed a recent moment, captured without Nathan knowing, him sitting on the porch, surrounded by all 6 of his daughters, laughing together under the warm glow of the evening sun. When the video ended, the room was filled with quiet emotion. There wasn't a dry eye in the crowd. Nathan wiped his tears, overcome with the love that had just been poured out in front of him. Keisha stepped back up to the microphone. "Dad," she said softly, her voice full of emotion. "You always tell us that love makes a family. Well, we want you to know that we are proud to be your daughters, and that your love has changed our lives forever." The applause started slowly, but soon the entire room erupted into cheers and clapping, the sound filling the space with warmth and appreciation. Nathan, still processing the magnitude of the moment, stood there, humbled and deeply moved. Finally, with tears in his eyes, Nathan stepped forward to speak. He took the microphone from Keisha, his hands trembling slightly as he gathered himself. I don't know what to say," he began, his voice thick with emotion. "I never expected anything like this. I just wanted to give you girls the love you deserved. I didn't realize how much you'd give me in return." As the applause slowly quieted, Keisha stepped forward again, a smile playing on her lips as she exchanged glances with her sisters. Nathan, still holding the microphone, wiped his eyes and tried to gather his composure, but the girls had one more surprise waiting for him. "Dad," Keisha began, her voice steady but full of emotion. "We have one last gift for you tonight. Something that we've all worked on together, and that we hope will show you just how much we appreciate everything you've done, not just for us, but for the community." Nathan looked at her, confused but intrigued. "You've already done so much," he said, his voice hoarse from emotion. "I don't need anything else." Keisha smiled, and this time Tessa stepped up beside her, holding a large, wrapped box. "You may not need it," Tessa said, her eyes shining, "but we think it's something you deserve." She handed the box to Nathan, who hesitated for a moment before carefully tearing away the paper. Inside was a sleek, black leather binder with a gold embossed title on the front. "The Nathan Walker Foundation for Foster Care and Adoption." Nathan stared at the cover, his breath catching in his throat. What is this?" he asked, looking from the binder to his daughters, his voice barely a whisper. Keisha stepped forward, gently opening the binder to reveal the detailed plans inside. "We've started a foundation in your name, Dad," she explained softly. "The Nathan Walker Foundation will provide resources and support for foster children and adoptive families, especially families who adopt across racial lines, just like you did for us." Nathan blinked, struggling to process the enormity of what his daughters had done. He flipped through the pages, each one detailing the foundation's mission, its goals, and the initiatives the girls had already put in place. There were programs focused on helping foster children transition into adoptive homes, grants for families who needed financial support during the adoption process, and educational resources to help parents navigate the complexities of raising children from different cultural backgrounds. Tessa stepped closer and placed a hand on Nathan's shoulder. "This foundation is a way for us to continue what you started, Dad," she said softly. "You changed our lives, and now we want to help other kids who are in the same situation we were in, kids who need a family, who need love." Nathan was speechless. He stared at the binder, then at his daughters, his heart swelling with pride and gratitude. He had spent years pouring every ounce of himself into raising these girls, never expecting anything in return, and now they had created something that would leave a lasting legacy, a foundation that would carry on the work of love and care that had defined their family. Imani, who had been standing quietly beside her sisters, finally spoke up. "We've already raised the initial funding," she said with a shy smile. "The community, your friends from the police department, even some of the families you've helped over the years, everyone contributed. People believe in this foundation because they believe in you, Dad." Nathan's eyes welled up with tears again, his voice cracking as he tried to respond. I don't know what to say," he stammered. It's incredible. You girls have done something I could have never imagined." Keisha nodded, her own eyes misty. "We learned from the best," she said simply. "You taught us that family is about love, about showing up for each other. And this foundation is going to make sure other kids get that chance, to have a family that shows up for them, just like you did for us." The room, once again, erupted into applause. Nathan, overwhelmed with emotion, embraced his daughters, holding them close as the weight of their gift sank in. This foundation was more than just a tribute to him. It was a continuation of the love and dedication he had given to his daughters, now extended to families and children who needed it most. As the applause died down, Nathan stood at the microphone once more, looking out at the crowd, the friends, the community, the people who had supported his family through the years. He cleared his throat, struggling to find the words. I never expected any of this, he began, his voice thick with emotion. When I adopted these girls, I wasn't looking for recognition. I just wanted to give them the love and home they deserved. But you've all shown me that family is more than just what happens inside four walls. It's about the community, about the people who help lift each other up. He paused, looking down at the binder in his hands. This foundation, it's more than I ever could have dreamed. It's a way for us to keep giving back, to make sure other kids know that they're loved, that they have a place in this world. He glanced at his daughters, his voice breaking. I'm so proud of all of you. You've grown into the most incredible women, and this is the greatest gift I could ever receive. Thank you. The room once again filled with applause as Nathan and his daughter stood together, united by the love that had carried them through the years. The Nathan Walker Foundation was just the beginning of a new chapter, one that would continue to spread the love and acceptance that had defined their family's journey. In the months following the launch of the Nathan Walker Foundation, the impact of Nathan's legacy began to ripple out far beyond what he or his daughters had imagined. The foundation quickly gained attention, not just within the community of Greendale, but across the state. Families who had struggled to navigate the foster care and adoption system reached out for support, grateful for the resources the foundation provided. More and more foster children, particularly those from minority backgrounds, were being connected with loving homes that understood their unique needs. Nathan's name became synonymous with the idea that family transcends blood, race, and appearance. Articles were written about his story, how a small-town cop had opened his heart and home to 6 black girls and changed their lives forever. The foundation's mission to help adoptive families and foster children find love and stability became a symbol of hope for many who felt lost in the system. And through it all, Nathan remained as humble as ever, never seeking recognition, but quietly proud of the fact that his story had inspired others to open their hearts. Nathan's daughters watched in awe as the foundation grew, realizing that the love and security they had found with him was now spreading to other families, giving more children the chance to experience what they had. Keisha, the most organized and driven of the sisters, took on a leadership role in the foundation, ensuring that every initiative ran smoothly and that the mission of the foundation stayed true to Nathan's vision. She had learned from him what it meant to lead with compassion, and now she was carrying forward that same ethic. Tessa, whose internal struggles had once caused so much pain, now embraced her place in the family with a sense of peace she had never known before. The years of feeling torn between two worlds had faded, replaced by a deep pride in who she was and the family that had made her who she'd become. Watching the foundation thrive, Tessa saw how her father's simple act of love had created a ripple effect that was changing lives beyond their own. For Nathan, seeing the foundation in action was both humbling and deeply moving. He attended events, spoke with families, and shared his experiences, though he never sought the spotlight. Instead, he focused on the joy of seeing other children find the security and love that had transformed his daughters' lives. He often thought back to the early days, when he had no idea how to raise 6 girls who looked so different from him. Now, standing among other families who were taking similar journeys, he saw how far they had come, and how far his love had spread. But Nathan's true legacy wasn't just the foundation. His real legacy was the family he had built, the daughters who had grown into strong, compassionate women because of the love he had shown them. Through their lives and their work, Nathan's values, love, acceptance, resilience, would continue to touch the world long after he was gone. One evening, as Nathan sat on the porch, watching the sunset with Keisha beside him, she turned to him and said softly, "Dad, you've changed so many lives. I don't think you even realize how big your impact is." Nathan smiled, his heart full of quiet pride. "I just wanted to give you girls the love you deserved," he said. "If that's touched other people's lives too, then that's more than I could have ever asked for." Keisha nodded, her eyes misty with emotion. "It's more than just love, Dad. You gave us strength. You showed us how to stand tall, no matter what life throws at us." Nathan looked out at the horizon, the warmth of Keisha's words settling into his soul. He had given them love, but they had given him so much more in return. And now, his legacy was something that would live on, not just in the foundation, but in the lives of every person they touched. A few months after the launch of the Nathan Walker Foundation, the family gathered again for one of their regular Sunday dinners at Nathan's home. The air was filled with the comforting smells of home-cooked food, and the house buzzed with laughter and conversation. All 6 sisters had gathered, along with some close family friends, enjoying a rare moment when everyone's busy lives could slow down. After dinner, as the girls gathered in the living room, Tessa stood up, clearing her throat. "I have something I want to share," she said, her voice carrying a hint of nervousness but also excitement. The room quieted, all eyes turning to her as she took a deep breath. "I've been thinking a lot about our family," Tessa began, her eyes briefly meeting Nathan's. "And how much we've grown together. How much love and strength we've found because of you, Dad." Nathan smiled, his heart swelling with pride and curiosity, as he wondered what Tessa had to say. She paused for a moment, her hand resting on her stomach. "Maya and I are going to have a baby," she said softly, her face breaking into a smile. The room erupted into cheers and congratulations. Nathan, his eyes wide with surprise, was the first to reach her. "A baby?" he repeated, pulling her into a hug, emotion welling up inside him. "Tessa, that's incredible." Tessa hugged him back tightly, feeling the warmth of his love and support. "Yes, Dad. You're going to be a grandpa," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "And I just want you to know that the love you've given us, the love you showed me, even when I was so angry and lost, it's going to be passed down to my child. I'm going to raise them with the same love, the same strength, that you gave to me." Nathan stepped back, tears in his eyes. "Tessa, I'm so proud of you," he said, his voice trembling. "You've come so far, and to know that my grandchild will grow up surrounded by love, just like you did, it means more than I can say." The other sisters gathered around, offering hugs and congratulations, the room filled with joy and excitement. This moment wasn't just about the birth of a new baby. It was a symbolic passing of the torch, a continuation of Nathan's legacy through the next generation. As the months passed, Nathan continued to marvel at the changes in his life. The Nathan Walker Foundation was thriving, and his daughters were flourishing in their careers and personal lives. But there was one more chapter to his story, one that had been quietly unfolding in the background. One evening, after another Sunday dinner, Keisha approached Nathan with a smile, holding a carefully wrapped package. "Dad, there's something we've been working on," she said, handing him the gift. "We think it's time for the world to hear your story." Nathan looked at her, puzzled, but gently unwrapped the package to reveal a book with a simple yet powerful title. "Love Beyond Color, A Father's Journey." His heart skipped a beat as he flipped through the pages, seeing his life and the girls' lives laid out in words. It was a memoir, his memoir, crafted with the help of his daughters, who had spent months gathering stories, memories, and reflections from everyone who had been a part of their journey. "We wanted to tell the world how love changed us," Tessa explained, stepping forward. "How you taught us that family isn't about race or blood, it's about the choices we make to love each other, no matter what." Nathan's eyes filled with tears as he read the dedication. "To our father, Nathan Walker, who showed us that love transcends every boundary. Your strength, compassion, and unwavering belief in us have shaped our lives. This is our way of sharing your story with the world." The room grew quiet as Nathan stood there, holding the book, overwhelmed by the depth of love and gratitude from his daughters. The memoir was more than just a story about adoption or race. It was a testament to the power of love to transform lives. Through their words, the girls had captured the essence of their family, the challenges they had faced, and the incredible bond that had grown between them. Nathan's voice trembled as he spoke. I never thought our story would mean anything to anyone but us. But if this book can help even one family find the kind of love we've found, then that's more than I could have ever asked for. As he sat down with the book in his hands, his daughters gathered around him, their arms wrapped in a tight embrace. The porch light flickered softly as the night deepened, casting a warm glow over the family. They sat together, content in the knowledge that their journey, though far from perfect, had been one of love, resilience, and unwavering commitment to one another. Nathan looked out at the stars twinkling in the clear night sky, his heart full of peace. Love beyond color, he whispered to himself, smiling. It was a fitting title for their story, a story that had begun with one simple act of love and had grown into something far greater than he ever imagined. As the scene gently faded, the message of their journey lingered. Family is not defined by race or blood, but by the love we choose to give each other. And in that love, anything is possible.